Good evening, and thank you for being here with us. We have an incredible group of award winners tonight, so let's begin. This year, we're pleased to debut 2 new awards that recognize the contributions of technology and innovation in news coverage. The first, the Innovation in Journalism Award, celebrating news organizations that are transforming reporting. This award is made possible by Bayer. Thank you. Tonight's award is given to the Tampa Bay Times.
When we set out on this project, we didn't intend to kick things off with this great big data visualization that was going to get everybody talking. It came out of a frustration that I was having with communicating sort of the emotional resonance that I felt like these test scores year over year over year could convey if it was done right. And I probably wrote 12 different versions with these numbers at the forefront, and in each instance it just sort of fell flat. So in conversations with Adam and with Nat, I mentioned how frustrated I had been with trying to tell this particular part of the story. From there, the idea of doing a chart or a set of charts sort of took root.
We would have some moments where we would try to explain to someone what was going on in the graphic, what story we were trying to tell. We kept on trying to do that where we'd add labels, we keep on adding more and more little things to it to make it a little more clear. Eventually we kind of figured out, like, we need to take a few steps back. We need to figure out how to tell exactly the perfect story that doesn't require explanation. Throughout this entire process, I was assisting kind of the reporters with the data of the project. We were going through huge spreadsheets and trying to fit them together to kind of support just the base of the story. So throughout that entire process, we were always thinking, like, how are we going to show this graphically? How are we going to show this visually? And so over the course of probably about 3 months, we put this graphic together.
Ultimately, I sat down, still not satisfied with the way that the text flowed on the page, and thought to myself, why isn't this working? And then all of a sudden, a couple of lines from a children's book that I had been reading my daughter the night before popped into my head. And just like that, I thought, well, that's the way to do it. We ought to break this down and write it as if it were a children's book.
Here to accept the award are Nathaniel Lash and Adam Playford.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here, and it's gratifying to see this story get this sort of attention. To help you understand why, I'd like to tell you about a 7-year-old girl named Alana. The story starts with Alana's mom losing her job and then her home. Her family was living at the Y until at last they found a house in South St. Petersburg. Things were looking up. Then she started at her new school, Melrose Elementary. Moments like these remind me why public education is so vital, to make sure no matter what's going on in a child's life, they have a shot. But a few years prior to Alana starting at Melrose, the Pinellas County School Board made the decision to resegregate its schools. And then they broke promise after promise made to keep the black schools decent places to learn. Melrose went from an average school to the worst school in the state of Florida. Alana's grades slipped. She was teased and bullied. It got so bad that one day she lay in the street in front of the school saying she didn't want to live anymore. Our stories of kids like Alana have gotten around. Members of Congress have called for investigations. The U.S. Secretary of Education flew to St. Petersburg, saying what was taking place in our county was a man-made disaster and an education malpractice. He promised more federal involvement in Pinellas, saying this is the beginning, not the end.
It's hard to imagine that all that happening if this had only run in print. To tell this story, we first needed to show people the tiny horror of what was happening to Alana, and then help them mentally zoom out to the idea of thousands of stories like hers. The human brain isn't that good at zooming in and out like that. But it turns out the internet is. And the best example of this is the chart in the video. It starts off big. Here's nearly every county in Florida. All of them are here because all of them are better at teaching black children than Pinellas. Then it shows just the Pinellas schools. Here's how they looked before they resegregated. Here's how they looked after. Look how different it is. And at the end, we zoom just to Melrose, the school that Alana went to. By 2014, only 6 kids at Melrose passed state tests. Not 6%, 6 kids. Making that chart took all sorts of technology, 3,000 lines of computer code that made web browsers do things that we didn't know web browsers could do, to be honest. But it's in that last moment, when you're looking at those 6 kids at Melrose, that you realize what really matters. This story isn't about 3,000 lines of code. It's not even about 5,000 kids. It's about someone's kid, over and over, 5,000 times. Thank you.